There's a real dearth of anybody whose job it is to help you.
I felt that it was very unsafe waiting for the bus, and it looked like a very dodgy place.
These are not just numbers getting on and off buses, they're human beings.
This has a massive effect on me, really massive effect.
For some of us, a friendly face and somebody that can answer a simple question in a simple way is what these young people need, and that would widen their life incredibly.
I will go panicky and frightened and scared.
What are the biggest problems that people in this learning disabled community suffer? And they say the biggest problem is transport.
From the Cotswolds to the Forest of Dean, this film asks some of the more vulnerable within our communities whether they are best served by the provision of public transport across Gloucestershire.
After 6:15 to Gloucester, it's the last bus from Tewkesbury to Gloucester. And if people want to go to any shows or anything in Gloucester, they have to go via Cheltenham to come back, which is not very good.
In 2012, a number of people with learning difficulties came together as the Better Buses group. Their aim is to identify transport issues and campaign for improvements.
Bring back the bus conductors with the ticket machines like they have on the trains.
The bus conductor was there and used to pay the fare.
Do you think it was better getting on the buses when there was a conductor?
Yes.
Yeah, because
yes, I do think that.
With me, I feel safe and confident.
The group have been meeting with Alan Bentley, Integrated Transport Manager at Gloucestershire County Council. Alan's team oversees all of the public transport within the county, and he is able to directly pass on the group's concerns to the main suppliers. The Better Buses group have themselves met with Stagecoach, voicing their concerns in a constructive atmosphere.
Stagecoach themselves, who run 85% of the buses in the county, they've gained real insight into your needs and the issues that you have with using public transport. You know, it's a first step on the way to actually making things better.
Good, because it needs to be better.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be better for the whole of the county, not just disabled people.
Well, that's right, yeah.
It needs to be better for everybody, not just us.
Colin lives in Lydney, in the Forest of Dean.
With my limited eyesight, you have to be very careful when you get on. If it's just a few people getting on, the bus is moving before I've even sat down, and I can't, I have gone shooting down the aisle. And I think that reflects back to what the bus company is doing. They're more interested in doing a timetable that suits their requirements than saying we have to allow for people to get on, so it's going to be another 5 or 10 minutes on the whole journey. I always say to them, now, please do not move until I'm seated. And some of them will say that's fine. Others will give you a look as though you're going to be shot.
James lives in Cheltenham and takes 2 buses to get to work on the edge of Tewkesbury. He's a seasoned traveller.
I'm kind of lucky in the sense I'm able-bodied. Okay, I do have Asperger's, but I've been kind of using the buses travelling around, so I kind of have an idea of how that all works. But if you're not so familiar with it, it's a lot more daunting.
James is joined today by Mike Armitage, one of the Stagecoach supervisors. It's his job to keep the service running smoothly and to deal with any problems.
We're the front line after people like James, if they've got any comments to make. We deal with it as best as we can. Hopefully the customer goes away satisfied that we've done something, showed our care and concern. 9 out of 10 times we sort things out there and then.
How actually do you train your drivers in a sense to deal with autistic people or deal with people on a whole range of disabilities?
The driver's certificate of professional competence is something that the government have brought in, and since 2006 we're doing more and more training. We actually send the drivers away on a day's training course. We make the drivers aware of the disabilities, different types of disabilities, and the different needs that people require. That's the beginning of it, and then We go through periodic training, and the one that we've got at the moment is called Valuing the Mix, and that is where we go through the different disabilities which there are.
And yet there's a big difference between theory and practice. It's hard being a bus driver. There's a lot to keep an eye on.
Bus drivers weren't expected to do anything but drive, and given the state of the traffic these days, they need to be given their full attention to that.
Mo lives near Stroud and remembers when drivers shared responsibilities with conductors.
Conductors on buses would help everybody. It's not just old people like me that need help. What about women with children and pushchairs and strangers to a town? And, bus conductors were worth their weight in gold. We didn't appreciate them.
Would it not be a bad idea to think, right, on some of the buses, to put a conductor on the bus? Would that cost more money?
You go back down to the money thing.
Yes.
Most of the buses are run by Stagecoach.
Yes.
They would need to put a resource in to provide a conductor.
Oh yes, money, yes, I know what you're saying.
And it might be that someone can do that on a voluntary basis, but I don't quite know how you'd work that. It might be possible to focus on the journeys where people have particular challenges. It might be late night services, or maybe it's the services that serve schools as well.
People are finding big groups of school children intimidating, just by nature of being a big group of children and being loud and doing their thing. Yeah. People find that intimidating.
Very nervous. I've got a hearing problem.
So because of the noise of the children, does it make it harder for you to hear when you need to get off the bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Better Buses group have highlighted a whole range of issues and concerns, from bullying to colour coding and timetables.
And they're a nightmare. They're massive little numbers. And anyone who's not particularly numerate, or maybe has, struggles with dyslexia, for example, struggles with, the orders of letters and numbers and things, would find it almost impossible to read a conventional timetable.
Natasha Reeves has worked closely with the group to make online information easy to understand through Travel Line.
As Nick was saying earlier, it's actually the fact that we haven't just done it for the disability group. We have looked at the whole thing for elderly people and for people that are not sure about using buses. So we have taken that on board. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. It's been a very good learning curve for me as well.
For a great many people, transport deeply affects their lives. Steph in the Forest of Dean was tipped to be a member of the Paralympic trampoline team. It meant attending regular training sessions, but because the journey was too hard, he had to give it all up.
Getting in is okay, but if you wanted to get back in the evening, and there's no buses available to get into the forest, and so if I didn't have a family member pick me up from the place, and then it's just not worth doing the activity in the first place.
The opportunities for these young people at the Forest Pulse Youth Club in Colford are seriously compromised. Pam Jones runs the club.
Lots of things are out there. It's about making them accessible to everybody, making them easy for everybody to understand, and it's about making people safe. They can't get to places because transport is so difficult for them. I'm not saying it's not necessarily there, but for some of them, there's some simple things need to be put into place to make it easier for them to use that transport.
Their parents are often deeply frustrated and see the need for a more individual approach. Hannah's parents are trying to arrange special transport for her to travel to the Colford drop-in, but there's a whole procedure to go through first.
She's got to go through a 2 to 6 month training period to teach her how to access public transport by herself. And I said to them, well, what if I tell you now she's too vulnerable, she won't be able to do it? And they said it doesn't matter, she's got to try. But we're of the opinion it isn't she's got to try, she's got to fail before they look at anything else for her.
Some young people, it's really, really successful. My neighbour's son has autism, and we've worked out a programme of getting into the bus station in Gloucester and then walking across to the college, and it's really successful for him, and he's going to be able to do that. But, it works for some and not for all, and that's what they need to consider.
We're quite vocal and we get stuff done, but I mean, there's parents whose children are just sitting at home doing nothing, just stagnating.
But throughout Gloucestershire, there are parts of the transport system which do join up the dots, especially the smaller networks, which can be more adaptable. Dial-a-ride schemes are all administered locally. Here in Cirencester, Ray has been a volunteer driver for a long time.
I love it still after all these years. Yeah. I still get a great degree of satisfaction of helping other people.
I wouldn't have been able to go shopping or anything because I can't afford taxis. They've been my godsend, I don't see anybody from one day to the next, so I really look forward to today.
There's a whole section of our population that are lonely because they cannot get enough contact with just the ordinary person in the street. We're beginning to feel nobody cares about us.
A door-to-door round trip to the shops costs £2.30, and of course it's also a time to chat.
It's our socialising.
In fact, when the bad weather comes, I don't know how I would do my shopping. When you've got snow to contend with in a basket or a trolley or something.
Volunteer car drivers also provide a vital service, especially in the remoter parts of the Forest of Dean and the Cotswolds. Beth Johnson runs Cotswold Volunteers North.
Being in the North Cotswolds, the main hospital people will be going to is Gloucester. And they have no hope of getting from Morton in Marsh, for instance, to Gloucester on public transport.
Lisa Hepworth runs the car service from Cirencester.
They go with one of our drivers who picks them up from home, makes sure they get to their appointment, sits and waits with them, and then brings them home and have a chat on the way home. And sometimes that's the only person they see in a day.
Sometimes, for a regular clinic, for example, everyone can travel together. Jane Winstanley from Dial-a-Ride explains.
If you can bring them all in together, they then get to know one another having a similar problem, particularly on the Leg Ulcer Club, where we could bring people together. What they found in that group was that they actually got better more quickly because there was some company. And then they'd start teasing one another. Oh, well, so-and-so's, worse than mine, and I'm getting better. And so the banter goes on.
Of course, there's another aspect to getting people out and about which can't take the place of public transport, but is nevertheless vital, and that's neighbours looking out for each other and providing lifts. Back in the forest, when he can't get a lift, Colin uses the local Dial-a-Ride.
It's a local driver from Lydney who I know very, very well. He'll stop and he'll have a little chat. And the people are in the back and they're waving and talking to other people. You don't want that to happen with buses, I know, but you do really need to be a little bit more user-friendly.
And so it would seem that the main providers could really benefit from having a more human face. Nowhere is this more apparent than at Gloucester bus station.
I understand that you're going to start having a new bus station. Now, when's that going to come?
We're certainly having conversations with the City Council. We are working with them to try and provide a design of bus station which works better than the existing arrangement. Obviously, cost is always a consideration, and there's a whole planning process to go through. But they've been bidding for funding, and they've been quite successful in that. So yes, it will be a few years off.
Jack had a 30-minute wait between buses. Well, he was just too vulnerable. But if there was somewhere safe that he could go and wait.
Having a safe place at the bus station would be an answer. There isn't one in Cheltenham and there isn't one in Gloucester bus station.
Time and time again, what comes up is the need not just for safe places, but for people, on a paid or voluntary basis, to be available when help is needed.
It doesn't have to be 24/7. Could even be there's just a window
where that type of thing needs to operate, where they can go into an office area and just say, I'm heading for Hartbury, sit down, and then the guy can just go, Jack, that's the bus you need over there, mate, go and get on it.
Interesting, that hasn't come up in our discussions before,
No,
so it's
not
a
so
new
far,
issue
no.
that we'd like to have a look at. And I'll certainly look at what the plans are, for starters, so we make sure that consideration's in the mix with the new planning process.
Safe environments are essential so that vulnerable people can have the confidence to travel. With the Keep Safe scheme, any adult who needs it can carry a card and seek help where they see the sign. It's been developed across the Cotswolds by Rosemary Lynn.
If somebody does get on a Pullham's bus, for example, in the Cotswolds, all those drivers are signed up to the scheme, they are carrying the logo on their buses, and the drivers will help people out.
Keep Safe is supported by the Police and Crime Commissioner, but the whole idea grew out of consultation with people with learning difficulties. Alan Bentley sees such consultation as a vital part of his work.
This work's essential. I see it as just part of being in public service. We try and do the best for all the local people. And, everyone's a council taxpayer, they're all contributing, and we need to do our best for everyone. That's all it boils down to, really.
The Better Buses group continues to meet. Their hope is to establish a transport forum for all transport users, to give people a voice and continue working towards making travelling in Gloucestershire easier. James is nearing the end of his journey to work. For him, the main issue is the general raising of awareness towards vulnerable people, and he's pretty positive about it.
The goalposts have shifted. People have woken up and realised that disabilities cover a whole range of different things. We're just the person next door, and the more these issues are talked about, the stereotypes begin to disappear, and you just become part of normal society and seen as normal to the rest of the world or to the rest of your community.